Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the special meeting of the Burbank City Council on Thursday, May 10th, 2018. I would like to invite our Community Assistance Coordinator, Bob Kramer, to the podium to lead us in tonight's flag salute. Would everyone please rise?
Please join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam City Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Frutos.
Good afternoon. Here.
Good afternoon. Councilmember Talamantes. Vice Mayor Springer.
Here.
Mayor Gabaletti.
Here.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We are going to begin the evening with a first public comment period. Individuals who wish to speak may speak on any and all items within the city of Burbank. And I have one card. I want to tell you that we're going to have a second public comment period after all the presenters and the candidates have had an opportunity to present. So I have a card from Mr. Mike Nolan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council, ladies and gentlemen. Mike Nolan. I would hope that I'm sorry the agenda was written the way it was. I believe there was an error, and I believe you've taken action to correct it, and I thank you, madam. However, I want everybody in this room to know that this city, and it'll be interesting to see what the comments are from the speakers who wish to be considered for an appointment to this honorable body. This city has threatened the people of Burbank for months that due to the dire financial situations we're in, everything from elimination to the helicopter program of the police department to hiring practices at the fire department, it's phenomenal the things that have been dangled out there, but no action has been taken on them. But nonetheless, they're out there. Children have been told that their basketball program for 10-year-olds will be cut back at the parks. It's phenomenal the number of items that have been discussed. There's been no discuss about management positions being eliminated or not filled, but it's always about the worker bees. And I want to remind you that this is Public Works Month, and the people that drive the trash trucks, pick up the palm fronds, run the street sweepers, that's Public Works. And they have been trying to keep up with things as the wind and the other problems have already taken effect in the first 10 days of this month. But I would hope that we would hear from the people who want to sit amongst you about what they would do to help this city deal with the financial crunch that you all have told us for months that we're facing. It's not going to go away, and it won't be gone 2 weeks from now. And it's something that has dangled, and I would hope and I pray that you will welcome remarks and input from these individuals, whether they're appointed to the council or not. If they have suggestions that could help us, I would hope you would welcome them and employ them. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Jay Geisenheimer, and that's the last card I have. Jay Geisenheimer.
Good evening. Jay Geisenheimer, 21-year Rancho resident. Just celebrated 21 years 2 days ago. Okay. I have looked at the list of applicants, and it is very impressive. Although I do not know all of these people, I know many, and one person rises to the top for me, and that is Christopher John Rosati. Chris is calm, intelligent, thinks well on his feet. All this is evident when you see him on the Planning Commission. Chris is a Burbankian through and through. Born and raised here, he has lived his whole life here. Chris was Realtor of the Year, voted Best of Burbank in 2016 and 2017. Chris's knowledge of Burbank stands out in any group. I have seen you, Councilman Frutos, with Chris at a Sustainability Commission meeting, and you, Mayor Letty, with Chris as well. Someone mentioned recently that you all get along too well, and they would like to see some diversity. I thought about this, and I decided that getting along is a good thing. It shows respect and consideration for each and every opinion, and it does not mean you are going to agree on everything. It is a good aura at the dais and for all of Burbank as well. I believe Chris will fit in with this common respect and bring very knowledgeable and thoughtful opinions and resolutions to everyone in Burbank. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just to remind the audience, we will have a public comment after all of the candidates have been given their opportunity to speak this evening for 3 minutes in the first part of this selection process. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak at this time? Thank you. Then I'm going to close the first period of public comment. City manager, city attorney, staff, any response? Council members? Councilmember Springer.
Thank you for coming and speaking.
Right. Tonight's special meeting is part of a selection process to fill the vacancy left by Councilmember Will Rogers, our late mayor. Pursuant to the Charter Section 900, the council has 30 days from the occurrence of the vacancy to fill the council seat, which means we have until May 19th. Based on council's direction, on Tuesday, May 8th, tonight's meeting is dedicated for applicant presentations, followed by public comment and the council selection of up to 3 applicants each. Public comment will be limited to tonight's agenda item only for 3 minutes each. Applicants will not be allowed to speak during public comment. And I'd now like to ask the city clerk to please proceed with tonight's item. Ms. Mullins?
Thank you, Mayor. I want to quickly give a background to how we arrived here today. Council gave directions on April 24th to advertise for the vacancy, to fill in the vacancy for the council member seat. And the city clerk's office advertised the opening for the applicants right after we were directed from council to do so, and the deadline was May 7th at noon, which at that time we received 31 applications, of which 28 qualified. However, today we have actually one applicant who withdrew, and that is Ms. Freeman. She requested that we withdraw the application from the process. Davida Freeman. The advertisements was done through the city website, the city council meeting announcements, social media utilizing the city clerk's website, Facebook and Twitter, press releases to the Burbank Leader, notices posted at City Hall Bulletin Board, Burbank Channel, and community groups and organizations. For the process, as you mentioned, Mayor, that we will start by having each applicant introduce himself, have 3 minutes to make a presentation to council, followed by the public comment, and after that, I believe council's taken a quick break to put down their top 3 candidates that will be moving forward for the May 14th question and answer period that is scheduled at 5 o'clock on Monday. So at this time, if council does not have any further questions, I'm happy to read the names to the record and also to call in for our first applicant to make the presentation.
Okay, let me ask if the council members have any questions of the city clerk. may I say that I think we are all very pleased at the number of people in our community who decided to apply for the position. And while I can't make the kind of jokes that Mayor Rogers made, I want you all to take a deep breath and do your best as we go through this first process. And that every one of us, I can guarantee, has looked deeply at the applications, considered the factors that are important, and that we're taking this seriously as we go through the first stage tonight. So having said that, and having no jokes to tell, because it is a serious moment, but at the same time, we wish you all good luck. Madam City Clerk, would you proceed?
So I'm happy to call in our first applicant to the podium, and that will be Barry Gusso.
Good evening, Mr. Gusso.
Good evening, Mayor Gabel-Luddy. Good evening, Vice Mayor Springer and Councilmen. I'm Barry Gusso, and I'm here to give you my vision of Burbank and why I wish to be seated next to you on the council to fulfill the term of my friend Will Rogers. I see Burbank with roads that are decent, parks that are well cared for, with great playground equipment and shade structures for our youth, a new pool at McCambridge, and great programs for our entire community, from toddlers to seniors. I see a determination to solve the parking and traffic problems, which has been an issue for quite a while, and controlled growth in our community, hoping to see great new businesses plant their seeds here to go along with the already fabulous businesses we now have. I'm familiar with the budget process, having worked on the budget for the Park Recreation Community Service Department for several years. It's no secret that the coming shortfall will have a negative impact on this community with all of its residents. We'll find a way to reduce costs while increasing revenues to combat this shortfall so that we can preserve our police, fire, libraries, parks, roads, etc. I'm very well aware of the housing shortage and lack of affordable housing. Again, no secret. My knowledge of real estate will help with this process. I might not have the answers, but my vision is to join you on the City Council and work through these issues with you, as I know we will make a great team. I've been a collaborator my entire business life, and I think that's one of the things that make me a viable candidate. I think I have a unique perspective, as I'm familiar with how Burbank governance works from my time on the Traffic Commission and Park Recreation Community Services Board. Through the years, I've had dealings with most of the department directors and supervisors, as well as much of the staff. They know me, they know my work ethic, and know that I'm not just a resume builder. I think you all know that as well. I do the work, and certainly there's work to be done. I also think it's important to work with the school system, and I have experience and relationships there as well. I believe my familiarity will help make this transition easier so we can more quickly get into the issues, those that need attention. My extensive business experience will certainly help with decisions that I will make. I also don't think I have an ego that gets in the way, and I'm ready to roll up my sleeves and get to work. I'm a good listener. Consider myself open-minded to each of you and to the residents of this community. I know taking office in this manner is unusual and not to be taken lightly. I am not, and I feel honored to be considered. In closing, I don't think it's necessary to tell any of you about my passion for Burbank. I've worked tirelessly in business, with nonprofits, and through my city-related positions to enhance the reputation that our city has and to make it a better place to live. I look forward to serving with you and hope you'll select me for the job. Thank you.
Council is ready for second candidate. Our second candidate is Vahi Hovanesian.
Good evening, Mr. Hovanesian.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Madam Vice Mayor, and council members, staff, people of Burbank. My name is Vahe Hovanesian, and I'm here because I believe I could do the best job. I'm here because I think I can help, and I think I can help you a lot. Before we get into that, I'd like to express my condolences for the loss of Mayor Rogers, my condolences to his family. I wish things were different, and I wish he was still here. I first met him almost 2 decades ago, and here we are. Down to business. On my application, I made an error. I wrote 29 years. I apologize. It should have been 39 years. This decade flew by. My children, I have a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old. I'm off after this to the Park and Rec, so his basketball team that he's on is recognized for winning Southern California Association of Federation of Municipal Athletics Award. I'm lucky to be here. My wife still likes me. My family is healthy, and I'm happy to see everyone here. With that in mind, I thought to myself, how can I help? I'm currently not serving on a board, so I'm not trying to get away from a prior commitment. I would not leave any vacancies. I can hit the ground running. Budgets. I've had 4 years of water and power budgets. My planning board, I've served my complete 4-year term of various planning documents. I know the city has many other aspects to it, and I look forward to getting into it. I will not be the perfect person. I will do my best. I will be part of your team. I will try to help. Since this is not political, this is all collaborative. Every moment I'm here, I enjoy it. I think I could be such a great asset in terms of my background and experience, whereby you will have a 5th person to share the burden of this decision-making, while that 5th person is also assisting in coming toward a collaborative end result. I love Burbank, just like everybody else here does. And I think I can really, really, really make a difference. And I think I can live up to your expectations. I wouldn't let you down. I will do my best. And I would look forward to and cherish every moment that I'm here. My family would be sacrificing my time with them, but I'll make it up to them as well. I can sleep less. I can work more. I have a nice law office. I grew up in Burbank. I went to Emerson, John Muir, Burbank High, UCLA, San Fernando Valley College of Law. I'm still here 39 years later, and I'm not that much older than 39. I was 4 when we came to Burbank. So I think I just aged myself. I appreciate you, and I want to thank you for everything that you do every day. It's a thankless job, and I'm happy to jump on board and do my best to assist. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our third applicant is Robert Brody.
Good evening, Mr. Brody.
Here. Good evening, Mayor, council members. I have to say that I'm very humbled to be here tonight, but I'm very happy to be here. I started my volunteering in Burbank 20 years ago as the resident notary at the Jocelyn Center. Every Tuesday after work, any senior could come to the Jocelyn Center, have any document notarized at no charge. And if you couldn't get there, I would go to your house. I took a look at my book this morning, and I saw that I did about 300 notaries for our seniors over that time. From there, I went to our Burbank Animal Shelter, to the Burbank Libraries, and I was fortunate enough 8 years ago to receive an appointment from you to the Art and Public Places Commission, where I've served as a commissioner, the chairperson for 2 terms, and I'm currently the secretary. In that time, I got a taste of working with our city, with staff, with citizens, with business owners, with developers, hearing all sides of a proposal to make a decision. There's been a lot of public comment about not wanting a rubber stamper, and I can assure you that has not been my role on that very important committee. Projects that were not in compliance with our ordinance were rejected. I do sit as an administrative law judge. I'm trained as a lawyer. I bring those qualities to the council, and I want to emphasize that in my role as a judge or arbitrator or mediator, I sit as a trier of fact, not an advocate. I weigh the evidence to reach the right decision, just as you council members do every single week. I like to say that when I'm looking for an answer, I'm not just looking for a decision, I'm looking for the right decision. I'm an active volunteer with the State Bar. I'm currently also, if you've ever been to a college fair in our city, I'm the alumni representative for UC Davis at the Los Angeles area college fairs. I'll be at Burbank's in September. I have strong ties here. My daughter, who I think all of you know, is an 8th grader at Jordan Middle School. She's going to be following you, Councilmember Talamontes, to Burroughs next year. She's also a member of Burbank Girl Scout Troop 6956. And on that note, I'll say thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our fourth applicant is Tanya Stump.
Good evening, Ms. Stump.
Council members, my name is Tanya Stump. Professionally, I've been a paralegal since 1999, and I've worked in the fields of real estate and landlord-tenant law, sexual harassment, personal injury, medical malpractice, criminal and wrongful termination. I've acted as court liaison between judges, court administration, attorneys, mediators, and arbitrators and the general public. I was also hired by the law firm for the City of Southgate to work directly with the City Council at City Hall in drafting briefs, legal memorandums, and ordinances in preparation for weekly and City Council meetings. And within a few months, I was offered a salaried position with the city to work directly with the City Treasurer and the Deputy Manager. Now, how does that make me more qualified than anybody else to work directly for the city? I don't think it does. I think that there are some very impressive resumes from judges, attorneys, prior city councilmen, and prior candidates. And I think that that in of itself is subjective to what makes a good public servant. What I think is equally important is a person's character and their personal relationship and investment with the city of Burbank. My personal relationship began when I moved to Burbank in 1994 from a small horse breeding coal mining town in Kentucky. The first several years I was a renter in the Rancho area, which I really loved, and I boarded my Tennessee Walker at the Circle R stables. I've also rented in the west side of Burbank, and I've joined in many marches down Chandler Bike Path. In 1998, I then flipped over and became a Burbank landlord when I purchased my first residential income property, a triplex that I still own today. I also own a home in Burbank on a hillside that I share with my husband and the best looking bulldogs you've ever seen in your life. I've been a licensed Burbank realtor since 1996, and that same year I became a card-carrying member of SAG-AFTRA union and the community, for which I'm still very active. I started I continue my volunteer work in animal welfare in Burbank and other areas, and as you are well aware, I have been directly affected by mansionization, by the home that was built next to me that inarguably kick-started the passing of the IDCO. I put my blood, my sweat, and my financial tears into Burbank, and only Burbank, for the last quarter of a century. Ouch. I love my city. I want the best for my city and the residents. When Burbank flourishes, we all win. I'm level-headed, I'm fair, I'm not dogmatic in my beliefs when presented with opposing facts. Law firms have specifically hired me for my contribution of common sense questioning and reasoning in all matters. For a person who has not led her life in preparation for a political position, I believe all of my experiences make me an excellent representative for many groups of Burbankians and an asset if appointed to the City Council. Thank you.
Thank you.
Applicant number 5, Thomas Smith.
Good evening, Mr. Smith.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I'm Thomas Smith, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a teacher, and I would tell my students when I taught a course like career planning that before you go for an interview, it's important to visit the place of business to find out the culture and to know what to expect. So not having visited here, like many of the others that I've heard, I tuned in to the May 1st meeting video and was very moved by the memorial to the former mayor. So moved, in fact, that I did make a contribution to the charity mentioned. I'd also, that's Donate Life California. I also am sobered by the number of high caliber candidates we have here tonight. I'm shaking in my boots right now from what I've heard so far. Attorneys, nurses, educators, and the list goes on. And I don't envy the council their task in selecting the best applicant. I'm a humble teacher. I'm not seeking power or influence. I don't have real estate interests in the city. I'm happy to be just appreciated for the work that I do. In fact, this week is Teacher Appreciation Week. And although I don't know about all the other people here, I don't know if there's such a thing as Lawyer Appreciation Week, but don't worry, I think we have a nurse or two that's an applicant. I think it's their turn next week. Why am I applying? I felt it was time for me to step up. I've been in Burbank for 5 years. I feel the personal qualities of integrity, creative problem solving, perseverance, and of course I mentioned being humble. I know we have a former police officer and a firefighter on the council. Why not a teacher?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Our sixth applicant is Alfred Abelsad.
Good evening, Mr. Abelsad.
Hello, greetings. Please call me Alfred, much easier. First off, I'd also like to give my condolences. And I'm also honored by all of the applicants. I saw the list and I think it's a pretty impressive list. And I also liked what Mr. Gusso had to say about not taking this lightly. And actually, a unique item, maybe unique perhaps, is that I'd really just like to fill out the rest of Mr. Rogers' term. I really have no ambition to run for city council in the next election. A little bit of history about myself. I moved here 20 years ago due to a position I had at Warner Music Group. This was after the Army. I served for 4 years. It was during the First Persian Gulf War, though I was not involved in the war. It was wartime era veteran. That's what that is, an actual title, if you can believe. At any rate, so I got into city politics due to the Home Depot being built. If we all remember that, it was quite the ugly discussion. I drove here after watching several minutes of what I considered hate speech, and let that be known basically in a public comment. And through that, I was appointed to several committees: the Charter Review Committee, the Transportation Commission, and the Sustainability Committee. Some unique items about myself. I rented a little above Glen Oaks on Cedar, where my apartment building was actually purchased, and my rent went up 40%. I was forced to move. I've been laid off a few times, twice actually, to outsourcing. So I understand what that's like. It's not a very fun thing. Last night I met Eric Woolsey, the firefighter union head, and he explained to me the ongoings of what the firefighters are looking into and the direction they're going through, I guess you could say, via their workman's comp direction, this and that, and how they're trying to save money. I was impressed. And you know, I'm a pretty good team player. I think I've worked with several people on the list. I think if you ask a few people here, I think they would be okay with my selection and I with theirs. I'd also like to say I'm an IT person, and one of the issues I would bring is, well, you know what? I'm just going to take my 3 minutes, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
Applicant number 7, Lauren Burton.
Good evening, Ms. Burton. I'm going to call you all by your first names. Hi, Lauren.
Hi. Okay. Good evening. My name is Lauren Burton, and as a resident and consumer rights attorney, I am applying for the vacant city council position. Although I didn't grow up in Burbank, much of my life has been spent here. My grandparents bought their first home here in Burbank in 1952 and raised their 4 children here and lived here for over 65 years. And now Burbank is where my husband and I are choosing our life, where we bought our first home, where we are going to grow our family. And I want to play an active role in making Burbank the best it can be. With my enthusiasm and fresh perspective, I believe I can add balance and value to the city government. I want to create valuable opportunities for all the people of Burbank to work together, use resources wisely, and make a lasting difference. I look forward to working with the residents and businesses of Burbank to continue to make our city a strong and vibrant community. My background in education and work experience puts me in a unique position to be an immediate contributor to the current council. I have a bachelor's degree in organizational studies and communications from UC Davis, and while at Davis, I worked for U.S. Senator Barbara Boxer as well as Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger at the state capitol. I then obtained my law degree, and now I am a consumer rights attorney. As a member of the City Council, I will keep my eyes focused on Burbank's future, creating opportunities, solving real problems, and producing concrete results. This is a great place to live and raise a family, and I want to continue to play an active role in working to preserve and enhance Burbank. My goals are to focus on public safety, work to continue to improve the quality of our life, and provide innovative and fiscally responsible ideas for resolving the budget. And since I know we don't have the time tonight to get into those ideas, we'll just have to discuss that during the next round. When Burbank is a community that is proud of where it has come from, and a community that has boundless optimism for the future. I am proud to say that I live here, proud to say that I'm going to raise my family here, and proud to say that I believe in its future. And I would be honored to represent the people of Burbank. Thank you.
Thank you.
Applicant number 8, Chris Rosati.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. I'm humbled to be here. Let me start by expressing my sincere condolences for the loss of your colleague, former Mayor Will Rogers. I thank you for your time this evening as we work together to move forward with our city. My name is Chris Rosati, and I'm a lifelong member of this community, having lived in every residential zip code in Burbank. I don't consider myself from any one neighborhood or district. I'm just another Burbank kid, having served on dozens of local community organizations, nonprofits, committees, and boards through the years. My current appointment to the planning board has uniquely prepared me for this service at the council level. It was an honor to be appointed by this council to serve a second term, and it would be a privilege to pick up the baton and move forward with this council's vacant seat. Having served on the planning board for 5 years, I bring a voting track record to the table that includes numerous significant projects and programs that have impacted our city for the better. Capable of objectively listening to our residents' needs while making impartial decisions would serve me well on this council. This experience has provided an excellent and strong foundation to the public process. Acting as a liaison to the Sustainability Committee would also be an asset. If appointed to council, I would fully support the current council's agenda and help achieve the 5 existing goals while finishing out former Mayor Rogers' term. My goal has always been community service. I'm passionate about our city and would work to preserve the best Burbank has to offer while ensuring sustainable growth for our future. I would endeavor to complement your team, collaborate even when council members disagree, and hit the ground running to do the work of our city. I was recently asked by someone if I could work with you all, and I said, you know, I really hope so because I voted for all of you. So I thank you for your time this evening and for your thoughtful consideration of my application. Thank you.
Thank you.
Applicant number 9, Oscar Bertello, Jr.
Good evening.
Mayor, Madam Vice Mayor, and City Council members. Name is Oscar Portillo Jr. Been a resident of Burbank for over 35 years. Attended all the Burbank schools. They say every great leader has an inspiring why. So here's mine. I want to be the change this world desperately needs. With all this hate, racism, and negativity that's going on in the world, I want to take it back to how it once was, where you showed compassion, empathy, and respect towards one another. And with that, it all starts in the schools. We need to teach our children at a young age to be compassionate, respectful, and kind to one another. The way we do that is through classroom discussion, storytelling, and by having school plays, like school assemblies. With social media being so dominating today, and you have kids as young as 8 years old having smartphones and iPhones, bullying has become worse than ever. It's so easy for a child to take a picture of another child, and then they send it to somebody else, and then they send it to somebody else, and before you know it, it's circulated around the whole school. Now, this is becoming a serious problem because our kids are killing themselves. You have kids as young as 7, 8 years old hanging themselves in bedroom closets. So this is definitely something we need to address in Burbank before it does become a serious problem. One of my primary goals on City Council will be to motivate, guide, and inspire Burbank's youth to think more, do more, dream more, and become more. We need to make them believe that, we need to inspire our kids to believe in themselves. We need to make them believe that they are good enough to accomplish their dreams. Our job as leaders is to bring that out in them. So one idea I have is to maybe have a contest between all the schools in Burbank, between all the students, where they either come up with a new Burbank logo, a Burbank mural, or maybe even the top 5 ideas how we can make Burbank a better place. Then we pick the 3 winners from each school, and they get recognition from the City Council. They're facing the paper. And maybe we can even set something up with the studios here in Burbank, like Disney, Nickelodeon, or Warner Brothers, and we can get them a backstage pass where they can meet with executives, writers, directors, and artists, and we can show them exactly what they can do with their hidden talents. Our job as leaders is to bring out the best in people, especially our youth, and this right here will spark their creativity, boost their self-confidence, and ignite their self-expression, exactly what leaders need to be doing. Under our leadership, I know we can bring out the best in Burbank, our residents, and our youth. If you could just give me the opportunity to light a fire inside of them, just how you all have lit a fire inside of me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Applicant number 10, Gilbert Lopez.
Good evening, Mr. Lopez.
Good evening. My friends will tell you I really don't need this, but I'm going to go ahead and use it anyways. My name is Gilbert Lopez. I'm a 14-year resident of the city of Burbank. I'm excited to be here tonight, and I'm even more excited that this room is filled with individuals that are looking to help change the city for the better. I moved here 14 years ago with my husband. We wanted to start a life somewhere that gave us what we needed, was close to where he worked, and so we chose Burbank. But it was really more of a homecoming for us than anything else. My husband was born here in Burbank at St. Joe's. He went to public school here, high school as well. And as for me, Burbank was a second home to me as well. I can't tell you the number of times we attended movies at the Pickwick, the number of weddings and quinceañeras we attended at the Elks Lodge over on Palm Street, and the number of times my father would bring us to Zodi's to shop. My father often tells us if we could have afforded it, we would have moved to Burbank. And he's very proud of the fact that I've been able to do that with my husband and start this life. I really believe I'm a man of the people. My husband doesn't like that because I talk to everybody. So I want to give you a little bit of what my day was like today, just so that you can understand who I am and what I feel is happening in this city. So my day started with Bill, the neighbor, who brought me the newspaper, who was complaining about the budget, Saturday's newspaper. This budget, these people don't know what they're doing. How are we going to fix it? Then I met with my neighbor who was walking the street, who moved a while ago and came back down the street, who was telling me how she thought that they were probably going to move from Burbank because she just doesn't feel safe anymore. Then I go to get something to eat, and I'm approached by a homeless woman asking me if I could buy her something to eat. Then I tell her no, and what does she do? She starts digging through the trash. That was only by 12 o'clock. 12:30, my husband's yelling at me, "Did you see the prices on the Burbank Water and Power?" It's a struggle, and the job that you're doing is not easy. My experience with city government involves 4 years working for the city of Santa Monica, where I tackled some of the same issues you are. I worked doing public information, parks and recreation, community outreach, and worked on the homeless issues. From there, I moved my career into nonprofit management, where I helped nonprofit groups with their budgets, with identifying new ways to raise money, and branding and strategy management. With the city of Burbank, I decided it was time to jump in again and do a little bit of community work. I jumped in 5 years ago. I did, was that 3 minutes, really? Okay.
Thank you.
Applicant number 11, Carolyn Jackson.
Good evening, Ms. Jackson.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the Burbank City Council. My name is Carolyn Jackson. I am here tonight to provide you with additional information about my qualifications to serve out the remaining term of Council Member Will Rogers and to answer any questions that you may have at a later time. I have lived in Burbank for over 40 years and have served on Burbank's committees and boards for the past 33 of those, beginning with the Child Care Committee in 1984. From there, I went on to serve on other council-appointed boards and committees, including the Blue Ribbon Campaign Finance Reform Committee, where I was chair. The Charter Review Committee, I served 2 terms there and was each time appointed by the council as chair. And the Park Board, I am now in my 3rd non-consecutive term there. I first met some of you while we served together on those boards. In my professional career, I am retired from the City of LA after 34 years of public service. The majority of my career was spent working as field deputy for an East San Fernando Valley council member. In that capacity, I worked with constituents and city departments to resolve community problems ranging from loud roosters to zoning violations and criminal activities. I spoke before numerous commissions to present community concerns, worked with public safety agencies, and otherwise represented the council member in the community that he served. When the council member retired in 1993, I went on to work in management positions in the Department of Recreation and Parks, where I served for 7 years. Initially hired to work in the Budget and Revenue Office, where I developed requests for proposals, worked on the budget, interviewed proposers, did contact awards, and administered concession agreements. A new general manager from outside the Southern California was appointed to lead the Department of Recreation and Parks. She created and appointed me to the position of council liaison to assist her as she learned the ins and outs of the city. In this capacity, I regularly attended and spoke at council committee hearings on behalf of the general manager, monitored the activities of the city council and its committees, and reviewed senior staff's written report recommendations prior to their submittal to the council. After my review, reports were either forwarded to the general manager for her signature or sent back to the Bureau for revisions. After a few years in this position, I moved to the Department of Transportation to gain more administrative depth and remove myself from the overwhelming responsibility of working with 15 council offices and their staffs. I accepted a job overseeing parking meter operations, overseeing staff and providing oversight of the city's parking meter program. Political upheaval and changes to the city charter in the late 90s caused turmoil in general manager appointments. Is that my time? That's my time. Thank you very much. I can talk more if I move forward. Thank you.
Applicant number 12, Meredith, and I'm going to say this slowly, Zoranziski. Hopefully I didn't torture it too much.
Good evening, Meredith. I forget the last
first name. Much easier to say. Good evening. My name is Meredith Stworzinski, and I thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak this evening. Ever since I was a little girl, I always wanted to work with children and be a mother. My path to making this happen was not an easy one. I didn't have anyone helping me find my way, and I often found myself floundering with decisions about college and how to make my dreams of working with children come true. When I was 19, I met a teacher at my local community college in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. I'm an East Coast girl, and I was introduced to Head Start. I was lucky enough to spend time working with children there, and my time in that classroom opened my eyes to how teachers can really advocate for children, for their students, and what they need. Head Start changed my life. I knew then, as I know now, that children need advocates in positions of power to ensure their safety and ensure that their needs are met. Since Head Start, everything I have ever done has been with that goal in mind. I left the classroom when my children were born, and I focused my life on being their mom. Any group they joined, I quickly jumped in as a volunteer, and I organized parents to create safe and healthy activities, not only for my children, but for all of the children that were involved. I'm a born leader, and I tend to rise to the position of lead volunteer quite quickly. I think my background in education, my time in a classroom, and quite honestly, all my years as a stay-at-home mom, has strengthened me and my ability to lead and organize. I love being a part of a group and taking part in discussions. I've never thought the "this is how it's always been done" mentality is the right way to approach any situation. I'm open and I'm willing to listen and try new ideas. I have a teenage LGBTQ son, and every day I think about his safety, and I think about the safety of other LGBTQ students. I joined PFLAG Burbank. I was welcomed to the board in October. After I addressed the school board last year, I had gone to the school board to speak about a different topic, and I ended up telling them my son's story. His transition to high school was very difficult, and I don't want another student to ever experience what he had to endure. If I'm named to this open city council position, I will always advocate for the LGBTQ students and the community. 2 years ago, when we decided to relocate from Philadelphia, we chose Burbank because we were impressed with the schools and the small town feel of this big city. I loved that I had a chance to get to know our elected officials because they were out and about at all of the same events that I was at. As a new resident relocating from the East Coast, I feel I bring a fresh perspective and new ideas to the table, and I would love to be one of those faces new residents look for at events in the hope of feeling like they too have come home. Thank you.
Thank you.
Applicant number 13, Michael Kogan.
Good evening, Ms. Koken. Welcome.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, my name is Michael Lee Gogan, and I'm born and raised in San Francisco, and I've lived in Burbank for about 11 years, and I cannot imagine living somewhere else. This city is so quaint. Now, as a professional, I'm an actor, a screenplay writer, a singer-songwriter since 1975. I'm in 4 different unions, SAG-AFTRA being my parent unions, and in 2 others, and I'm also have a really good relationship with ACTRA, the sister union for television and film in Canada. In 1988, I was elected unanimously by the Screen Actors Guild board members to become a board member. Our board served a constituency of 104,000 people at that time. In 1988, I also became the first national chair of performance with disabilities under SAG and continue to serve as a steering committee member to this day. And that relationship led me to being invited by the White House in 1990 to see President Bush sign into law the Americans with Disabilities Act, which is ADA. In 2010, I was elected as president of Little People of America for the Los Angeles chapter. LPA is a national nonprofit organization. As president of that chapter, our board worked very hard to successfully change our troubled finances from a deficit to a positive cash flow in less than 2 years. I'm an advocate for diverse population in our community, which includes securing access for people with disabilities, services for our seniors, and affordable housing for our residents. The media industry is currently one of the main driver of revenues for Burbank. Serving as a council member with my professional experience in the entertainment industry would be a benefit, as it would help bridge the gap between their business model and its economic impact in our community. Now, I know Burbank has a lot of hard decisions to make in the next few years regarding our deficit and proposed budget cut options. We need to work together and have creative solutions. So in closing, I'm up for the task of dealing with these challenges with my past experience from working with a large-scale union to a nonprofit organization. And I understand that hard business and policy decisions would be necessary for Burbank's sustainable future. A team that respects each other's differences will always find a path toward a unified goal. And to do that, we need to listen more and talk less. So I'm ready to roll up my sleeves and help council serve the community because I believe in Burbank.
Thank you.
I'm asking for your appointment. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Applicant number 14, Eric Nelson.
Good evening, Mr. Nelson. See, I can pronounce your last name.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hello and good evening. My name is Eric Nelson, and I want to start by thanking all the candidates that have applied to fill the vacated seat by the passing of Councilman Rogers. It is great to see so many people interested in giving back to this community. And I want to thank each of you, the council members, for your continued dedication and service to the city of Burbank. Like many of the candidates, I am a lifelong City of Burbank resident, and I am confident that I have the skill set, resume, and track record to be a valued addition to this council and make a positive impact on our city. Although I may not have served on as many boards as others here, I have a formal education on how government operates and committed to making a seamless transition into council, and I'm ready to get to work. And what I'd like to share with you is my unique story as to why I want to be on council and why I'm the best candidate to fill this vacancy. On June 26, 2015, Officer David Nelson, my youngest brother and lifelong Burbank resident, was killed in the line of duty. His death was a tragedy for our family and all who knew him, And what I came to understand after his death was that he left a legacy of positive impact on so many people here in town. What I also came to appreciate like never before was the outpouring of love and support from so many people in this community. The friends, teachers, coaches, and people that I've grown up knowing here in Burbank were there for me in the greatest time of need. I was humbled by the impact that I had on their lives, and now as I look to raise my family here in Burbank, I'm even more honored to be part of a family legacy of service to the city. Today's media and political landscape is defined by division. As a 37-year-old in the median age of a Burbank resident, and as a startup owner in the mobile app and entertainment industry, I understand the value and role technology and social media plays in today's society. I have a strong grasp of how to engage and motivate people using today's latest tech trends and platforms. And I can leverage that knowledge to inform and inspire our constituents. As a successful production professional on events as big as the Super Bowl, which requires me to coordinate with a number of local and federal agencies, such as city officials, state agencies, and even the Department of Homeland Security, I know what it takes to bring people together in a fun and safe manner while managing some of the biggest event budgets in the country. Yet what I want to bring to this council and remind our city is that we have more in common than not, that we are stronger together, and that our whole is far greater than the sum of our individuals. I have been galvanized in my pursuit to give back more and be a leader bringing all members of our city together. As a city council member, I can be a tangible, reliable, and trustworthy face to that sense of community that Burbank proved to me. Each decision guided with a simple goal to ensure that each resident of Burbank is given the same opportunities as I had in protecting that safe community spirit of Burbank. Thank you.
Thank you.
Applicant number 15, John Boeri.
Good evening, Mr. Boari.
Good evening. Thank you for having me here this evening. This is a unique opportunity before you. You have the opportunity to expand the capability and capacity of this council in a way that leverages the existing expertise and knowledge of the four of you. You need someone who will complement your skills and expertise, public safety, planning, conservation, environmentalism, so many levels of expertise that you have, and I'm best suited to complement that and to work with you. I have specialized knowledge and regional connectedness to advance the agenda of the city. For instance, related to budget, I worked for the city of Los Angeles for a council member and was assigned to oversee the budgets during the budget deliberations for a number of departments totaling tens of millions of dollars. Further, around housing, I'm prepared and to step up in 2019 when the RENA process begins to make sure that Burbank is valuable in that conversation and make sure that its interests are looked out as we look at the regional housing situation as well as local housing issues. Related to economic development, I've worked with companies like Nestle and Heinz to expand their locations when previously working for a city council member, as well as small businesses to make sure they were thriving, delivering customers to their door so they could continue to thrive. As it relates to governance, I just recently resigned from a board after serving my term of a nonprofit that was close to $300 million. So I definitely understand the governance required to look at a multi-$100 million budget as you look at making decisions and staffing, et cetera. Further, I run the San Fernando Valley Council of Governments, as you all know, and so I have very intimate knowledge of governance issues as it relates to cities such as Burbank. Finally, related to traffic and parking. I serve as this region's representative on the Metro Policy Advisory Council, so I have direct communication with Metro senior staff and the board as it relates to accessing funds and serving the regional needs of this city with those funds. So I really feel as though with these levels of experience, they complement and enhance the work that you're already doing. And so as you look at the opportunity to continue the conversation, I ask that you put my name down to advance me to the next level so we could continue this dialogue and advance the progress of the city of Burbank that I'm proud to serve. I chose Burbank, so I hope that you'll choose me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Applicant 16, Juan Guillen.
Good evening, Mr. Guillen.
Good evening. You all know me. I've been around the block a few times. Ran for council 3 times. I was standing in the back of the room thinking, Why did I first run 6 years ago? And it's because I saw things going wrong and the city that I grew up changing before my eyes. And every day I'd hear someone complain about, oh, Burbank this and Burbank that. And I always said, be the change you want to see in the world. And if you know there's a problem and you're not doing anything, then you're equally, if not more, at fault for not speaking up. I'm inspired to see so many young people that I graduated with or graduated a few years after me in this room. And it gives me hope that we can see that change. I'll never forget the first time I met one of the council members. It was at the Colony Theater. And he said, I'm proud of you. Keep running, make us all proud. I run because the residents can no longer be ignored. The issues are there. The same issues we had 6 years ago, we have today. And we talked about kicking the can down the road on Tuesday, and we talked about the tough decisions, and they're not being embraced. I started a business at the bottom of the recession, and 10 years later, thank God we're still around. And most recently, I took over a nonprofit organization at the brink of closure and turned that around. The devil is in the details. And the way we balance the budget, 100 million here, 20 million here for this department, not understanding where every dollar goes. The way I turned around that organization, I found out where every quarter went and where every quarter was going. And now there's a surplus. There was a time when we were handing out $1 million bonuses and no one knew about it. I wonder how much other stuff we don't know about that's in the budget. There's opportunity to be had and for us to seize it. I have a gentleman, some of you know him. He's been promised his alleyways repaired for the last 10 years. He has letters, it's budgeted, we're gonna give it to you. And nothing. We talk about city services. We've been struggling with our city services for a long time. I mean, Tuesday we got a report that our streets aren't what they used to be. Those that are running or sent their applications in of my generation love this city and remember what a great place it was to be raised in. I can't speak for them, but I want future generations to grow up in that city that I so much love. Thank you.
Thank you.
Applicant number 17, Stephen Kindred.
Good evening, Stephen.
My name is Steve Kindred. At the age of 65, I'm new to politics. New, but really not a newbie. When I was pushed into early retirement from my 30-year career in broadcast news, most of it at KFWB radio, I felt sad. I had won every award my profession really hands out, but still wanted to accomplish more, serving listeners with reliable, unbiased information on some of the biggest stories in the world: OJ, presidential, gubernatorial, municipal elections, and of course the usual floods, mudslides, and earthquakes. But after a while on the sidelines, I came to realize there are a lot of other ways to help people, and that's why I'm here today. I've always had an interest in public service. I think this job would be an extension of skills I've honed over a lifetime. Administratively, as president of the Radio TV News Association, I had to referee a lot of stuff during the OJ trial between the media and the judges. I promoted a lot of First Amendment causes, including last-minute prevention of all cameras in the courtrooms from being banned after the Simpson trial. I negotiated with LA's mayor, city departments, and the LAPD to establish a media parking zone at City Hall. May not sound important, but it lessened some of the clashes with parking officers. It even came to blows a couple times. And the chance that reporters would park in front of a fire hydrant or a no stopping sign. That was really a place where a former chief liked to park. I hope that I can now be part of the story instead of just telling the story. The future of our city is really at stake. I bought a home in Magnolia Park 19 years ago. I've been a booster of the city, although privately, not as a member of the government, because that would be a conflict of interest. But I tell people we have a lower tax base. We have no gross receipts tax. We have excellent schools, including an outstanding adult school I've attended a few times, and gorgeous parks and no parking meters. Well, I know that's going to be an issue you'll be discussing. I know you have to put in some revenue enhancements, and I'm open to hearing more ideas and offering some about what to do. Whether I win this job or not, I will help you get the sales tax initiative passed. I hope the council will continue its aggressive efforts to find more revenue. At the same time, I would push for more city pride projects. You know, we may no longer have Johnny, Jay, or Bob, but we can still have hope that our city will continue to thrive as an alternative to that huge neighbor there just off the end of Olive Avenue. I hope I can answer some questions in the next round. Thank you.
Thank you.
Applicant number 18, Timothy Murphy.
Good evening, Mr. Murphy.
Mayor, Council, thank you for your time. I would be honored to fill out Will's term. Will was a friend. I was his campaign manager in his first ever run for office, and I worked with him very hard. I know this town really well. I've walked all the neighborhoods. I've knocked on more doors than anyone I know for bonds, for campaigns, for initiatives. I think I have a tremendous history of service. I first started my public life in the late 1970s. I was a founder of an organization called NAC, Neighborhood Awareness Committee. It was a homeowners group, and we did a number of things. Mostly we helped people with their issues, no matter where they were in the city. We helped save Buena Vista Park, which was scheduled for development. We worked on the 1% for the arts, which became eventually Arts in Public Places. We worked on hillside protection with Connie Wilson. We brought the first ever initiative in the history of the city, the initiative to break the council into districts. It seems to be in the forefront of state law today, but at that time, it was something that we thought we should look at, and it was a lot of fun to do it and learn from that. We also held candidate forums. In 1986, I think, I was appointed to the park board. I served one term there. One of the things that I came up with was a Quimby ordinance to help expand parks and pay for parks. I was hoping to see gray water brought into the parks. Eventually that did happen from the leadership of our water and power people later on. Recycling, I asked that we consider recycling Christmas trees. It was apparently wasn't a good idea when I was on the park board, but when I was on the council a few years later, it was a brilliant scheme. And apparently IKEA liked it so much that they're doing it now. On the council, I worked pretty hard on neighborhood protection, planning. Recycling was one of my hobbies. The gray water, as I said, became a reality. I was a leader in transparency long before it became something that you know is nouveau riche now. Anybody who knows me will tell you that I'm well prepared, a hard worker. I get along well with others, and I'd like to work with you. You're a good group. Thank you.
Thank you.
Applicant number 19, Paul Herman.
Good evening, Mr. Herman.
Thank you, council members, for giving me the opportunity to speak with you tonight. I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself and how I became involved in our community and why I think my background makes me the best candidate for the vacant council seat. About 11 years ago, my wife was pregnant with our first child. We were first-time homebuyers looking for a place to settle down and raise our family. At the time, I was working in downtown Los Angeles, while my wife was working, and still does, as a teacher in Woodland Hills. We settled on a home in a quiet neighborhood in Burbank. Not because we had any particular affinity for the city, it was just convenient for our commutes. Over the years, however, we came to appreciate more and more the wonderful sense of community we found here in Burbank. We came to appreciate the great public schools, amazing park and rec programs, and other city services that we often take for granted. As our children got a little older, I spoke with my wife about my desire to become more involved in our community, to plant our roots here, to raise our children here. I wanted to do my part to help ensure that Burbank continues to be an amazing place to raise our kids. So with her blessing and support, I endeavored to get involved. I joined Burbank Noon Rotary, and in 2004, I applied for and was accepted into the Leadership Burbank program. What a great experience. Leadership Burbank really opened my eyes to how our city functions and how all the facets of our community work together to make the city great. In 2015, I was appointed by this body to serve on the Water and Power Board. Shortly thereafter, I was also asked to join the board for the Boys and Girls Club of Burbank and Greater East Valley. Around the same time, I was invited to become a board member for Burbank Noon Rotary, too. The people who serve on these boards and commissions are the leaders of our community, the thriving heartbeat that brings it all together. I've been honored to be asked to lead these leaders by being elected by my fellow board members to serve as chair of the Water and Power Board in 2016 and president of the board for the Boys and Girls Club last year. It is this commitment to service that has given me some insight as to the level of dedication it takes to serve in public office. I know the toil and time each of you dedicate to the council. I applaud your efforts and would like to emulate your commitment to service. While I may not have the same level of experience in dealing with issues relating to our city as some of my fellow candidates, I can assure you I'm unsurpassed in my level of commitment. I'm a quick study and a dedicated individual, and I think it is evident by the fact that my fellow board members entrusted me to lead their respective boards while I was still relatively new to them. Finally, I'd like to end with this. I believe families are the foundation of any great community, and children really are our future. I think it would behoove this body to consider a candidate that can give voice to families raising kids in our fair city. Because at the end of the day, I'm not seeking this position for myself. I'm doing it for my kids and all the children of Burbank. Thank you.
Thank you.
Applicant number 20, Gerard Panajon.
Good evening, Mr. Panajon.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor Gabeletti, Vice Mayor Springer, Council Members Frutos and Talamontes. My name is Gerard Panajon, and I'd like to begin by saying I wish I weren't standing here. I wish Mayor Rogers were still with us and that we didn't need to go through this process. I wish we could hear his laugh and know that for the next 2 years we could count on his guidance through our city through this difficult time. Since that isn't possible, I'd like to tell you about myself and why I believe I can help the members of this council and our neighbors in Burbank. I grew up here, attending David Starr Jordan Middle School, and lived in the city through the completion of my bachelor's degree. After leaving for a few years, I came home to Burbank with my husband to put down roots as so many families have before. I'm happy to once again run on the Whitnall track and have corner cottage burritos like I did before Saturday morning high school band competitions. Coming back to Burbank was most definitely a choice. I choose to live here, and I have chosen to become as involved as possible in the Burbank community. I am proud to serve on the Burbank Cultural Arts Commission, and I want to thank the council for appointing me to that role. I have also completed Rise Burbank and Leadership Burbank and have been an active member of local clubs and organizations. For the past 17 years, I have worked in finance and analysis at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, helping support the engineers and scientists who are furthering our understanding of space. As a student of finance, I would relish the chance to work with you on Burbank's budget issues and assist in closing the gap without cutting needed services or personnel. We all know that the city of Burbank is facing significant deficits through fiscal year 22-23, and we don't need to waste time reviewing the details. The City Council, Mr. Davis, and staff are working hard at minimizing or completely offsetting those projected deficits. Our problem is not unique in California, but what makes Burbank special is that we are not sitting back and letting these financial challenges control us. We as a city are coming up with significant and concrete plans. I want to be a part of that, and that's why I'm here today. I believe this and the other core issue facing our city, housing affordability, are actually related. If people can't afford to move to Burbank, then our tax base cannot grow and our fiscal cliff will grow larger. We must solve these problems together if we are going to solve either of them. Just as important as setting goals is the culture by which those goals are achieved. My previous work and community experience have shown me the value in listening to diverse perspectives. If I am given the honor of being appointed, listening and learning from the current council members is as important as any of the other goals I have discussed tonight. Today, this council has a problem-solving majority, working to move Burbank forward. You're looking for someone who knows the community, who knows budgets, and who shares your commitment to getting things done. I would be honored to work with you in any capacity, and I look forward to the opportunity to take your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Applicant number 21, Steve Begomian.
Good evening, Mr. Begonian.
Thank you. The citizens of Burbank now have a city council who work together as a team, as a unit, to navigate us in the right direction. And we need to stay the course. I humbly submit that this council should appoint someone who's eager to cooperate and collaborate with the existing council to reach resolutions, not a polarizing figure bent on self-promotion, grandstanding, and creating gridlock for 2019 or 2020. To stay the course, Burbank needs to build on the progress made by this council in the past few years, while proactively addressing and solving some of the pressing issues Burbank's currently facing. And in the coming months, Burbank will have to make some very difficult choices. But together, through respect, through teamwork, through a diversity of opinions, and through input from our community, we could tackle difficult challenges like the budget, promote pro-growth, pro-responsible development, and pro-local business policies, all while maintaining the small-town charm and feel that make Burbank the incredible city it is. That's how we stay the course. This council has a short window to fill this vacancy. The question I have is, why not go with the local who graduated from Burbank High? A local who set a vision from a very young age that he'd give back to his community, the first opportunity he had, then made good on that promise by being appointed to the Civil Service Commission and volunteering his time at the Los Angeles Superior Court as a mediator. A local who stayed the course and became an investigator for the California Department of Public Health, then an attorney, fighting against nursing home fraud, abuse, and neglect on behalf of our most vulnerable. And now that same local hopes to join you on this council. In closing, I want to make a few commitments to this council to consider during its deliberation. That if chosen, I will treat this office with dignity, integrity, and thoughtfulness. That I will use all tools at my disposal to educate myself on every issue that may come before this council, and use the weight of all of my background and experiences to make the best decisions for the people of Burbank. And finally, I'll commit to working collaboratively and cooperatively with this council to stay the course, to further its agenda, and address the tough decisions we collectively face as a city. Thank you.
Thank you.
Applicant number 22, and I do apologize in advance. It's Abby Ausiwevu. I know I didn't get it right. I tried.
Good evening, Miss Usei Iwevu.
B minus, B plus.
Okay.
Appoint me, we'll work on it. Abby Usaiwevu, obviously from hearing all of these presentations, the roots in Burbank run deep. I've been here 4 years, so I'm a little bit of a newbie, also new to this type of process. I'm a public servant for my whole life, or my whole adult life. The application in front of you doesn't adequately explain the depth or breadth of my education and experience. I was a teacher at, getting off my notes now, high school special education teacher in LA Unified. I'm currently a nurse. So my whole adult life has been dedicated to serving other people in a variety of roles. Now for the past 10 years as a nurse, I've transitioned from staff nursing to hospital administration. With that in administration, I'm learning the delicacies of balancing competing interests. So I'll bring that to the table if I'm appointed to this council member position. Between my husband and myself, he's the one who likes to talk politics. I decided I wanted to do politics. I wanted to be an active member. So when I saw this vacancy, I said, this is the time. I believe in contributing to our community, even though I've only been here 4 years. There's a bit of a cult-like atmosphere in and around Burbank, and that's in a good way. I've met a myriad of people in a variety of places who have been from Burbank, and they all have the same love for it, and we're quickly getting indoctrinated into that as well. We have a young family, and we, my husband and I, and our children have benefited greatly from the city of Burbank for these past 4 years. From the excellent school system, our kids are in the dual immersion Spanish program at now award-winning Disney Elementary School, to the diverse and robust classes and camp offerings through the Park District. We've greatly come to appreciate and value everything that Burbank has to offer. As a Burbank City Council member, I will work to maintain the same standard of excellence that Burbank residents expect. My 5 priorities are the schools, the Park District, our first responders, entrepreneurial development, and housing. Of course, with housing affordability, and also homelessness, I see those as flip sides of the same coin. I would like to address those, as they're both growing issues, which you've heard. As a city council member, I'll bring my leadership philosophy to lead with love. And I'll end with the fact that in listening to all of these presentations, I don't envy your decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
As I mentioned to council earlier, applicant number 23, Davida Freeman, had withdrew her application. So now I'm calling number 24, Linda Marshmell.
Thank you. Good evening,
evening,
Mayor, City Council members, and City staff. My name is Linda Mashamel. I grew up in Burbank, attending Jefferson Elementary, John Muir Middle School, and Burbank High School. Because of the solid education and encouragement that I received from my teachers at the Burbank schools, I was able to go on to graduate with honors from LMU and later earn a law degree from Loyola and become an attorney. What I find most rewarding about the law is that I can volunteer and give back to the community in a unique way. One organization I volunteer with is Public Counsel Law Center, where I do pro bono work with their Consumer and Debtor Issues program. It is very rewarding helping people who sometimes do not have the means to hire an attorney and to be able to counsel them and put them at ease in a stressful time in their lives. It is important that these debtors receive legal counseling and advice because they are often confused as to how the law actually affects them and, for example, their ability to retain their secured property. Most of the time, these debtors are so relieved and relaxed after being counseled about their rights. And this is what motivates me. Another project I've been involved with is a local nonprofit cultural organization because I'm a first-generation American, the daughter of immigrants. I've been privileged to serve as a volunteer on this board's scholarship committee for over 10 years now. In the past 10 years, we've provided academic scholarships to more than 50 deserving students with excellent grades and very impressive extracurricular activities. Many of these students are also children of immigrants, some are immigrants themselves, and many are the first in their family to attend college. And the reason I'm telling you this is because it's a very competitive process. We're a very small committee, usually 5 to 7 people, and we have to take the heat from parents, students, and the general public every year because we have to turn down a lot of very qualified applicants. However, we are trusted to make difficult decisions in a timely manner. We have to be fair, objective, treat all applicants equally, and not be in any way influenced by outside factors. And when we do award these scholarships each year, the students and their families whose hard work and sacrifice have been recognized are so unbelievably grateful and so excited about their future. This is what motivates me. A few things I love about being a Burbankian is that whenever you're out and about in the city, you will run into friends, neighbors, classmates, your hairstylist, and probably your dentist. You can leave your purse at the table with no one watching it during the busy lunch hour at Porto's, walk away to accept some phone calls, come back, and find that your purse is still there where you left it. Not that I've ever done that, maybe last Tuesday at noon. It is knowing that although a hillside fire could come dangerously close to your home and your neighbors' homes, that your local fire department will do its best to fight it with all of their might, and they have the resources and the abilities to do so. It is knowing that if you feel like shooting some hoops or playing a great match of tennis, you have several clean and safe parks in which to do so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Applicant number 25, Christopher McKinley.
Madam Mayor, council members.
Good evening.
I'm Christopher McNeely. Very humbled to be here today and very honored. I want to start with a question. Why? Probably my favorite question of all. I recall during my time as an administrator at Cedars-Sinai coming up against consistent opposition when I asked that one-word question. Because it's always been that way, because we've tried it in the past and we just couldn't find support, these are the answers I heard, or even more often, we simply don't have the funds earmarked for that. Perhaps those are the easy answers, perhaps they were truthful answers, but the fact is that they were not acceptable when the goal that we were tasked with was growth. So my colleagues and I relentlessly questioned our leaders and propelled our community outreach to unprecedented levels of participation and funding, all with that one simple question as a catalyst. The most important why that I can answer for you today is why I'm standing here and why I'm qualified to fill that 5th seat. I think we can agree that the primary function of any governing body is to listen to its constituents, to facilitate a conversation, and to mediate a reasonable and fair solution that encourages growth. And that's what I do every day as a studio executive and producer. I listen, just today in fact, to government officials, international and national, to private citizens, to union heads, to corporations. I listen to their interests and I form a plan so that we can all work together to build film economies around the world. And in the most challenging moments, when it seems we will never find our way to a solution, we do, because we ask why, and we listen. I had the pleasure to meet with each or speak with each of you briefly before this, and I thank you. And I was left with one question ringing in my head, and that is, why is there not a member on the council who reflects my family, my demographic, as Mr. Herman said? My wife and I are 43. We have children who are 6 and 8. I rent my home rather than own. Why is there not a voice who can speak for my family? I would imagine that some of you have children, and you would say, I worked hard for my home and I raised my children, but I'm sure you would also agree that times have changed significantly, even in the past couple of years, and we are faced as families with very different cultural and economic challenges. And I'm with those people every day. I can speak to that part of your constituency. I can fill that void on your council. I've never run for public office. I've never made campaign promises. I've never taken money from any special interest. I come to you completely unfettered by past experience, and I'm not angling for a future office. I'm here because there's a need. You, our governing body, are presented today with a really unique occasion to change the system for the better, to choose someone equal to the task, but entirely new to the experience. You have that opportunity to appoint a council member who will generate fresh, bold ideas, and I would be honored to sit alongside you to explore new answers, new ways, as we build or continue to build our world-class community, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Applicant number 26, Gail Cole.
Good evening, Ms. Cole.
Good evening, and thank you very much. My name is Gail Cole, and I feel passionately about serving my community. I've worked in education and communications throughout my career, developing important skills that I want to offer here. Skills like listening, learning, leading, strategic planning, community building, and decision making. For the past 5 years, I worked as a school principal. In that role, you learn that every organization is built from relationships. You learn how important it is to ask questions, to seek to understand before seeking to be understood. You learn how to help people think critically, make difficult decisions, and prioritize. Prior to being a principal, I worked in educational technology. That means that I help people figure out how to use tools to improve their lives. In that job, you learn that new doesn't always mean better, that all tools can be used in positive or negative ways, that you should never underestimate what a person or group can achieve given the right tools and resources. My work in technology helped me be a systems thinker, a problem solver, and a continual lifelong learner. Prior to that, I was a teacher. I've taught in public schools and private ones, working with the gifted, typical students, and students with learning disabilities. Sometimes they're all one and the same. I know that children are the hope for our world, that they have plenty to teach us, and that they all want to learn and succeed. In addition to my career, I'm mom to 2 students at Jordan Middle School. My husband and I very intentionally and purposefully sought to purchase our home in Burbank. It was our dream. We see the tremendous value in this community. We want to gain from it, and we want to give to it. To whom much is given, much is expected. I have served communities in many ways, as a volunteer, as an ex officio member of boards and committees focused on finance, development, and technology. I've managed budgets and I've led service work to combat homelessness. I've worked for the USC Shoah Foundation, whose mission is to put an end to prejudice, bigotry, intolerance, and the suffering that they cause. I recently completed my participation in the Burbank Rise program. Residents Inspiring Service and Empowerment does just that. It inspires. At one of our meetings, just before he passed away, Mayor Will Rogers spoke, and it was clear how dearly he loved Burbank, as do I. In selecting someone to complete his term, I believe the city needs a council member who will recognize that they are appointed and not elected, and that they will not come to push a single agenda item, but to work with you diligently to do what is needed to help Burbank face the challenges in front of it, to seize opportunities, to thrive, and to remain true to its character. And I want to be that person. Thank you.
Thank you.
Applicant number 27, Alex Wazowski.
Good evening, Mr. Wysocki.
Good evening, City Council and beautiful people of Burbank. I'm Alex Wysocki, and thank you for considering me for the vacancy of Will Rogers' seat on the City Council. I'm fresh off of Leadership Burbank, and I'm really inspired by that phenomenal program. But first, I'd like to recount the story of Quintus Cincinnatus, a hero of the early Roman Republic. In 458 BC, Rome was surrounded by its enemies and was losing. The consuls came to Cincinnatus for leadership because he was the right person for that moment. He was retired and he was on his farm and he could have said no, but he responded and he laid down his plow and he won an impossible victory for them. Then he could have stayed in the office with all the spoils and power of the office, but he didn't. He laid it down and he went back to his farm. He is an archetype of me to how to serve in American democracy and was also to President Washington. And that's what I bring to you tonight. I bring a servant's heart. There are many candidates coming before you that may appear to be the most qualified on paper, but they may not be the best fit for the job right now. I don't think there's a single candidate that can surpass the prestige the 4 of you bring to this chamber. There are equals because I don't want to diminish the careers of my colleagues, and serving next to any of you would be an honor. So I'm not going to compete with that, but what I can offer is I am the group of many people not represented in the Burbank government. I'm a young working parent with small children. I'm in the entertainment industry. I'm a proud member of the IATSE Local 600 Camera Union. I'm a former renter and homeowner, and I'm a transplant to Burbank, like many thousands of people here. I understand the pressures of owning, maintaining, and previously renting property. I value that we have the best police, fire department, schools, and power plant in the country, but Burbank has an existential tension that we must preserve to survive. We are the most advanced small town in the history of the world. We must honor the history that's built Burbank, but we have to choose a new direction for progress, because if we do not choose it, it will be chosen for us. We're in the same crunch of a budget that many corporations have, honoring promises of the past, planning for the future, and defending what we value. It's a lot like the conversation I have with my children about eating their vegetables. That's the hard choice leaders have to make, what's critical and what to cut. We have to address our budget, but we also have to address issues of municipal child care, homelessness, mental health care, office space for businesses, and issues facing the entertainment industry both on the producer side and on the independent contractor side that often get treated unfairly. Finally, I'd like to give my endorsement to Gerard Perron, Constantine Anthony, and Carolyn Jackson, all 3 who I know and I think will be very intelligent, compassionate, and fit choices for this office. Thank you for this time speaking, and I would love to do some great work for the city of Burbank.
Thank you.
Our last applicant, number 28, Constantine Anthony.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council, staff. I believe good government is two qualifications, experience and temperament. My experience. The four things I believe that this city is facing right now, the most important items, are the structural deficit in our budget from the furlough payments that we need to give back, affordable housing, homelessness, and traffic and transportation infrastructure. I've been on the Transportation Commission for over a year. I've graduated the San Fernando Valley Council of Governments Mobility Academy, and I'm a full-time Uber driver with 12,000 rides under my belt. I've seen some traffic. Homelessness. I've been homeless twice through no fault of my own, and the personal experience of the fear, the shame, the anger that goes with that, it is daunting, and unless you've gone through it, it is hard to imagine. Affordable housing. I rent my apartment, but I've also been a property manager for 3.5 years in Brentwood and Toluca Lake, in Burbank here. I understand both sides of the market. I know how the prices fluctuate, and I know how it moves. And finally, the structural deficit. I've been right here for 18 months. I've seen all the presentations you guys seen. I've seen all of the arguments for and against. I've watched the speakers come up. I've been here. I can hit the ground running. I don't need a warm-up phase. I know what needs to be done, and I can make those hard choices. The other side of it is temperament, right? So my temperament includes respect, creative thinking, and commitment. I've never gotten into an argument where I didn't walk away from it respecting the other person. I've had discussions with many of the people on this side of the podium and a lot of the folks behind me as well. I don't bring anger. I don't bring disrespect to any of our conversations. Creative thinking. I think outside the box. I got some ideas that'll blow Ron Davis' socks off, I'll tell you right now. Last year, I brought the Indigenous Peoples Day to council, and it passed with Mayor Rogers' approval. I asked the council to look at the transient occupancy tax increase, which many of you respected, and just recently I brought to council the idea of refunding the fees for appeals, which a lot of the council members thought was a good idea. Commitment. Whoever you choose to fill that seat, I'll tell you, I've been here for 18 months. I'll be here for another 18 years. I'll either be sitting out here or I'll be sitting up there. I'm not going anywhere. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Madam City Clerk, does that conclude the presentations?
Yes, it does.
Would you like to go forward with the next steps that?
Our next step, I believe council would like to have the public comment.
All right. Okay, let me find it. Thank you all very much for speaking this evening. This is the time for public comment. If you have not already commented on a candidate, you are welcome to come forward and comment at this time or share anything else you wish about the candidates this evening. My first card is from Joyce Horani. I'm sure I murdered that name, but welcome.
Good evening. The reason I'm here is to throw my support behind one of the wonderful 27 candidates you've already presented, but the special young lady that I'm here to support is Linda Mushamel. I've known Linda for many, many years. We've known her parents since before we even moved out here to Burbank over 40 years ago. I'm a 25-year retiree from the city of Burbank, and I think I understand the type of person it takes to serve on the council and work with the city employees as well. She's very enthusiastic and diligent with any task she's assigned and in any project she accepts. So I just wanted to say those few words about her. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Eric Michael Kapp, and you will be followed by Margaret Rauter. Good evening.
Good evening. Eric Michael Kapp. I'm a 20-year Burbank resident, proud parent of a 10th grader at Burbank High School, and occasional blogger at iloveburbank.com. We also have a Facebook page. Well, you have a very difficult decision to make tonight in narrowing this field down to 3 picks each. I'm going to weigh in with my 2 cents as per the letter I sent you earlier today. And it's difficult. I've read through all the applications. I know many of the folks personally who've applied. And I think that Juan Guillen deserves his chance on the city council. I think he has earned a seat at the table. He was the top vote getter in the last 2 general elections who's applied for this position. And just for comparison's sake, in the last primary, he received, I think, almost 1,000 votes more than Constantine Anthony. In the last general election 2 years prior to that, almost 1,000 votes more than Christopher Rizzotti. So I think you ought to honor the will of the people, at least with regard to those 3. No disrespect to those gentlemen. He has a tremendous record of community service, second to none. He's not afraid to make the tough decisions with regard to budget deficits. He will protect our quality of life. He will oppose overdevelopment, mansionization, projects like the IKEA project, the 1,200 units being planned at the old IKEA site and the 200-room hotel. So he's my top pick. A couple of others that I really like as well. Vahe Hovhanessian has run for office a few times also, most recently for school board, where I think he got about 3,000 votes. He's got some very useful practical experience as an attorney. He's also interned at City Hall. He has served on the planning board, which is great experience, and the BWP boards, and he's never been afraid to voice a dissenting opinion. So I think with either Juan or Vahe, you're going to have diversity of opinion, which is important, and ethnic diversity for what that's worth. Barry Gusso, sorry if that's correctly pronounced. You know him, current Park and Rec board member, 10 years of service there, a long history of community service, and that's something I always look for in a candidate, a successful local realtor. He's got a great business background that I think will be very useful in dealing with our budget, pension, and infrastructure deficits. So, you know, as you narrow the field down, I hope you will look to a long-time Burbank resident, someone with the necessary skills and experience to do what you're doing, which is very difficult, someone with a proven track record of serving our community, because that really shows your heart. No agenda-driven individuals, no polarizing figures, just a servant leader. A servant leader who just wants to do and has a vision to make this city the very best it can be. I wish you well in your choice. Thank you.
Thank you. Margot Rauter. And you will be followed by Joshua Goodman.
Hello, Council. Hello, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members. As others have said, this is a momentous event that we all wish wasn't happening right now. And I am very inspired and impressed and humbled by the applicants. I'm sure that you all, many of you are aware why I'm here at the podium, who I'm speaking about, because I manage his campaign for city council. It's Constantine Anthony. But in the midst of working on that campaign and then walking for Sharon as well, I spoke with hundreds of people of Burbank. And a little thing happened. I kind of fell in love with the city, and now I live here. So I'm invested, and so it's not only that I'm speaking on his behalf, but I'm speaking on behalf of the city and what I know is good for the city at this time. In all of those conversations that I had, many people asked me why and when I would run. Many in this room have asked me when I would run. The truth is, with Constantine Anthony as a consideration for yours, I do feel like I'm running. These are issues that I feel very close to. These are issues that I feel should be represented on council, a voice needed on council, and it feels like my voice. I will say I've had hundreds of conversations with him. I know him quite well, maybe 1,000. And what I do know of him is there's absolutely no ego in any one of those conversations that I've ever had. And there is a mastery of data synthesis, but there is also a mastery of empathy in every single issue that is taken on and every single thing that he seeks out. Every piece of information is brought in, and it is not treated with any ego, and it all comes in, and it's synthesized, and it all is communicated to the parties that need communicated with in a way that I've maybe never seen from anyone else. I do think that he can serve this council in ways that we don't even know yet, because I know him that well. So that is what I can tell you. There's so much more that I can say, and I know that I'm going to run out of time, but there is an interest, there is a commitment. I've been here because I've been brought into it. I am so interested now in the city, and that's because he inspired it in me, and that's why I'm here. And with the issues facing the city today, I think that he's who you need. So thank you very much. I didn't run out of time, look at that.
Thank you, you beat the clock. Our next speaker is Joshua Goodman, and you will be followed by Conrado Terraza Siras. Good evening.
Thank you so much, Mayor Gabeletti, members of the council. It's great to see you all. I know it's been a busy week. At this point, you've all received multiple emails and calls from me about this. Jess, I think I'm all over your home and cell voicemails. You don't have to call me back. It's fine. We're just talking now. So I'm not here to speak about a specific candidate, but instead to talk about values and about some of the things that I think should inform this selection. You know, every time we choose a new member of council, whether through an election or through an application process, we can see it essentially break down into two groups. People who want to talk about the way Burbank was and people who want to talk about the way Burbank can be. And I understand the perspectives on both sides, but I think you know which camp I fall into. And it's why I've been proud to work with all four of you, because we fall into the same one. We're here to get things done. We're here to solve problems. We're here to do what we need to do to move the city forward. I'm sure there was less traffic in 1958. I'm sure there was. We also didn't have integrated lunch counters, right? So Burbank is in a much better place than it was 60 years ago. I don't think there's any need for us to take it backwards. We've got a lot of great people who applied tonight who have budget experience, who have civic experience, and what I hope you'll do is consider who is going to add some diversity of thought and of background to this council. It would be great to see people who represented our diverse and growing city. And I'd also just like to take a quick second to address the applicants, those who have not left. Many of you, all of you showed a commitment to our city. Some of you have some space left in that section. What Burbank activities are you involved in? I would love to talk to you because I volunteered a lot of stuff and we could really use your help. So the 26 of you who are not selected tonight, please come and talk to me. Thank you.
Conrado Terrazas Siras.
Hi, good evening. How are you doing tonight?
Good evening.
My name is Conrado Terrazas Cross. For identification purposes, I work, I'm a district director for a member of the Los Angeles City Council. I'm here to speak a little bit about Alfred Abulside, so I know some of you know him very well. I've known Alfred for 20 years. He's always had a passion for community issues. He's very intelligent. He's balanced. He listens to all sides. And I think it's important to being a member of the city council, in my experience in working for one in the city of Los Angeles. And I think one important aspect that he has or quality is listening. You have to be a good listener and listen to people when they talk to you about issues that they're passionate about. I also know that he has, and I know 3 of you realize that he has a passion for community service. I know that 3 of you appoint him to a board. He loves his service to this community. He loves Burbank, and I think that's one of the key things of someone on the city council. You have a passion for this city and a passion for listening to people. So I urge you to support him and appoint him because I know he'll do best for this city. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike Moynihan, followed by Kevin Harrup.
I'm Mike Moynihan. There are a lot of new faces here tonight, so before I present the Mike and Roy Show, I just would like to say that the Mike and Roy Show addresses important issues that affect all Burbankers. We don't disrespect council or staff, but we do hold them accountable for their words and actions. Please roll the Mike and Roy Show.
In case you couldn't guess, we're having some technical difficulties. So everybody, if you would, and take a deep breath, and we'll get it fixed.
Make a decision that we hope they will make for the best. Hello, Burbankers, and welcome back to the Mike and Roy Show. We are on the precipice of a very momentous decision that our city council members will make.
Why don't we go on to the next speaker while the technical staff are working out the details? Let's put Mike and Roy aside. Kevin, hurry up. Good evening.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Council. Boy, I miss Will. I don't envy you.
We understand.
I don't envy you your task, but I have every confidence in you and your ability on this. I would just say avoid candidates that speak in platitudes. And if you are resistant of candidates that that tell you off about how poorly you've been doing your job over the last few years, I won't blame you either. And keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Eric Avalos. Good evening.
Hi, everyone. I don't know a lot about public service. I don't know a lot about what you do. I know one thing. My job relies on meeting as many people as I can, developing relationships with those people, and getting to know them. And so while I've been at Burbank, I've met a lot of people. I've developed a lot of relationships, and I've not met anyone of higher ethical or moral character than Christopher Rosati. I don't know how that applies to what you do, but I hope that it helps you in your decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Monahan's time.
You want to know, so tune into the Mike and Roy Show. And now, Mike and Roy.
Hello, Burbankers, and welcome back to the Mike and Roy Show. We are on the precipice of a very momentous decision that our city council members will make, a decision that we hope they will make for the betterment of our community and the residents. They will be appointing a city council member to serve out the term of Will Rogers.
We're, like Mike said, looking for what's best for the citizens here. We're looking for a unusual and uncomfortable possible choice for the council. We need a dissenting voice up there. We've had mostly 5-0, maybe 4-1 votes for quite a while. We're looking for a voice for the rest of Burbank.
Yep, and Jess, you said something last week that we wanted to clear up. You said that there was a blog that said you should go with the next vote getter. Well, the community is asking you to look back at the previous election in Burbank and see who got the next amount of votes, and that's the person you should appoint. But then you go on to say that that's not true. We have to follow the charter because there's specific criteria of what you have to follow in a specific time. No, Jess, it is true. The community is asking you to appoint the person who got the next amount of votes in the last election. That's true. Are you going to do what the community is asking you to do?
Right. Staff is asking you, suggesting you do a certain way. The community, which we elected you guys, that's what we're looking for you to listen. Also, think about this. All the work that there's a few candidates in this 28 folks. They put the work in, they put the money in, they did the legwork, they knocked on the doors, all that time and sweat they put into it, and to not be offered a place at the front of the line, it's way beyond missing the democratic process to me.
Yeah, Emily, you said about taking the next highest voter, the city charter sets forth requirements by which we select a council member to fill the late Mayor Rogers' seat. And so it's not based on who gets the next highest or next lowest votes. It's based on a prescribed process, which we'll be talking about further. Yeah, the process. You can appoint who you want to appoint. You can appoint the person who got the next amount of votes in the last election. So please do what the residents of Burbank are asking you to do.
Absolutely. That's about all the time we have for tonight's Mike and Roy Show. We'll see you next time on the Mike and Roy Show.
Mike and Roy.
Elisa Cunningham is the next speaker, and you will be followed by Jonathan Moore.
Good evening. You have some great candidates. The only one that I'm qualified based on my experience to recommend is Chris Rosati. I've served with Chris on 2 boards and numerous committees. I know how he makes decisions, and I know his track record, as well as you know his voting record. Chris is a known entity, but what you may not know is his humor, his warmth, his compassion, and his ability to bring people together as well as raise them up. Chris will be a good fit to help fill the void left by Will. He is a devoted public servant. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Jonathan Moore, and you will be followed by Janice Wood.
Please roll the Mike and Roy Show.
Thank you on a nose, so tune into the Mike and Roy Show. And now, Mike and Roy.
Hello, Burbankers, and welcome back to the second part of our huge double feature tonight here at City Council. Mike, you said it. We're on a precipice here. The council has a big decision to make. They got to appoint somebody for that vacant seat. Here's the ongoing concern about feeling ignored. Many of us in Burbank, a couple of weeks ago, the decision came before the council. Appeals fees. If you have a monster house go up next to you and you want to appeal to the city about it. It used to be a little over $100. It was almost 1,000% increase in front of them. And the vast majority of speakers that came before council said, please, don't raise the fees. The vast majority of emails, please, don't raise the fees. They voted 4-0.
Can we stop the tape for just a moment, please?
To proceed with the...
We won't take away their time, but for the staff who have reviewed this, does it talk about the candidates? Does it talk about, would the person who introduced the tape please indicate whether it talks about the candidates or not? Please come up to the microphone.
Yes, it does.
The person who introduced the tape, who's not part of the tape, says that this involves the candidates. Please continue with the tape.
Hike, and it went way up. This should really concern you if you live in Burbank. You're not being listened to.
That's right. Residents are being ignored. And that very night, one of our council members said, well, I can't base my decision on the 3 or 4 people who come down here. That was misleading because there was a lot more than 3 or 4 people who came down there to speak. And they received 17 emails from the community saying, please don't raise these appeal fees almost 1,000%. But that council member decided to say to the community, well, I can't base it on 3 or 4 people.
Yeah.
Misleading. That same council member has misled the community in the last meeting by saying that there's a blog in Burbank that says that the council has to appoint the person with the next highest amount of votes in the last election to serve out Will Rogers' term. No popular blog in Burbank says that. The community is asking you to do that, and you have the ability to do that. And here is Section 900 of our city charter, and there's nothing in there that says you can't do it. Are you going to appoint that person? The thing that's best for the community? We'll see.
So far, recently, they've been disregarding what the voters want, what the citizens want. They're listening to staff or somebody else. We don't know who. It's a real mystery who they're listening to and who the puppet master is. That's what it feels like. Mike, the other thing that's going on is if the folks that are the candidates that ran, and there's a few sprinkled in the 28 that we're looking at here, if they're not put at the front of the line and given the first right of refusal, okay, that you're disregarding all the people you encourage to vote and come to city council and be involved in the process. You're disregarding their votes.
Yep, and here's the problem.
That's undemocratic.
Because the person who got the next highest amount of votes in the last election is not the person that's going to go along with every staff recommendation. It's not the person who's going to vote along with our city council every time. It's the person who's going to ask important questions that the residents want answers to. So
and deserve.
Are you going to do what's best for the residents? Or are you going to take the easy way out? We'll see. And we'll see you next time on the Mike and Roy Show.
Janice Wood, and you'll be followed by Roy Wiegand.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and Council. My name is Janice Wood, and I want to talk to you about the process of selecting a candidate. First, I'd like to say I'm a little bit confused about the process of being a speaker at the meeting. I read on the back of the speaker's request card that you cannot give over your time to another person, but then I heard that someone got up and asked to have a tape shown that he is not in. So I don't quite understand how that can happen under the rules of this council. And further, I would like to say that I think that everyone should have the right to come up and have their say what they want to say and be heard, but I don't think it's really fair to everyone, not just the council members, but to all of us who take our time to come down here to have to watch videos of people going on about subjects that are not really even, for instance, in this case, on point. But as to the process for electing, so I would recommend that the council, if they see fit to do so, consider changing the rules. And if you want to speak before the council, then get up and speak. And I would certainly be supportive of that. But as to the process, let me say this. I don't know who Bob and Roy are, and they're not the entire community of Burbank. I'm certainly part of the community of Burbank, and I know this, that the majority of the people in Burbank voted for you to make decisions for them and for our community. And there are other people who ran who I don't know personally, but the majority did not vote for them to make decisions for our community. And so I believe that what the community has said already is, you are the people that we trust to make the best decisions for Burbank. And if you apply that same idea to the process of selecting someone to fill a vacancy on the council, let me say that I would agree with, I think, most of the community in saying that I trust you to pick the best person to serve on the council, and the mere fact that someone has run for office does not make them the most qualified candidate. So I want to say I think you devised a great process. I'm supportive of it, and I trust that you will make a very good decision, and I won't even tell you who I think is best because I know you'll make a good choice. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wiegand, I want you to just hold off for just a moment, if you please. I believe that Mr. Wiegand has been seen for 6 minutes now. And council members, I am willing to take the position that Mr. Wiegand has had his 3 minutes and that he is not, under our rules, allowed to speak for another 3 minutes. So thank you, Mr. Wiegand. Are there any other speaker cards? Okay, Mary Kellerman, good evening.
Good evening, members of council. I'd like to encourage the council first to just take a deep breath. Does so much for the body, right? You have a big decision to make. There are plenty of wonderful candidates here tonight, and a few that I feel that are really qualified for the position. It behooves our city for this council to seat a candidate that services his or her community now and today. Someone who isn't retired or pulling a pension. Someone that understands what it is to raise a family in this city. Someone who understands what it is to be a renter, what it means to struggle to buy or rent a home. Someone that's open to real solutions to the budget issues and to the fee hikes. Someone that can bring fresh and maybe young ideas to this council. I encourage you to look inward and to make the right decision. And the woman who just spoke's right. We've put you up here for a reason, and you can make that right decision. And I encourage you to look inward. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is James Aroney, or Mr. James Arone, I'm not sure. Thank you. Good evening.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, I'm James Arone. I live on Clark Avenue in Burbank. It's been a long time since I've been here. What's up? You know, I just listened to a previous speaker talking about how the citizens put you in, you can make the decision, and sounds great. In a city of over 100,000 people, I believe it's like 50,000 voters. If we're lucky on an election, we can get maybe 10,000 to come out. I hardly see is that a mandate to put somebody in position of Will Rogers after he passed away. And I think that there's got to be a better way to do this. This doesn't seem like the way. Yes, no disrespect to the people that filled out the applications. Seem like some good people. I believe that they're sincere in terms of wanting to serve. However, it just doesn't seem right. It just doesn't seem right. You know, people, when you run for office, you have to put some time, money, energy into it to fill out an application, you know, and to come in and have this be the decision. You know, I'll tell you, I really hope the people at home are really paying attention here, because you know what? At the end of the day, I think if you do go down this road, you're poking the bear. I mean, you're really going to poke the bear. I mean, it's like, and I don't think you want to do that. So I hope everybody that's watching is paying attention. Hopefully, this isn't a done deal, and it's not just a dog and pony show, and that the fix is already in. Do the right thing. You're elected to serve. You want to be leaders, show leadership. There's a democratic process in place. I think you're making a big mistake if you choose somebody out of the applicants that have come before you tonight. Maybe again the way to do it is, people that showed up the election last year, the top runner-up, the second runner-up. There's got to be a better way. Pay attention, people, okay? Because it's your city, and we put you in those chairs. We could take you out of those chairs. So do the right thing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mike Ellman.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council. You heard me a couple of nights ago say it's an opportunity to raise the bar. Just want to keep that in your memories. I've heard a lot of people tonight. First of all, I say I have no dog in this fight. There are people very talented and committed behind me who are ready to step in and do this job. And I would like you to pick, and it's going to be very difficult. I don't envy you for 1 second for the decision you have to make. But I think the talent is out there. Do your best, choose the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any more cards, Madam City Clerk? All right, we're going to close public comment at this time. Does the council have any response to the comments that were made? Mrs. Springer? Sharon?
I appreciate all your comments. Thank you for coming down. And all of those comments are very helpful. Thank you.
And I, too, want to thank you all for coming and speaking and providing your opinions and input on what is a very, very difficult decision. Okay. I'm going to ask you, council members, having concluded this part of the selection process this evening, whether or not you would like to take a few minutes among yourselves to think about the candidates that you would like to move forward. And before I do that, I want to ask the city clerk, while you're thinking about that, I'd like to ask the city clerk to once again go over the procedures following the moment we're at here in the whole process.
So at this time, we will be handing you the ballots, and you have 3 choices on the ballots. Once you complete that, you can complete it obviously during the break. Then you hand it back over to me. I will then go ahead and call the names into the record for each council members and who they chose as their top candidate, and then put those in random order. City Attorney.
I'm sorry, I believe that you have to fill out the ballots in here, that you really can't take a break and do that, just so we're clear.
Yes,
we're not going to all go into a room together, light the cigars, and drink a bunch of wine. Nobody here smokes cigars anyway. Thank you for putting that on the table.
We have our officers standing outside, so you can't leave this room. Yes, so once you complete your ballot, you turn it over, we'll collect it, and then we'll call the names into the record, and then we'll do the random drawing. So the names will be called in the random, or first in record by each council member's vote, and then we'll do the random drawing here before we leave tonight. I will call in the names into the record again for a random drawing, and then the council can conclude the meeting tonight.
All right, council members, how about it? 15 minutes to spend some time reflecting and going over your notes. You know, we all got a tremendous amount of correspondence in addition to the information that came to us online. So you may want to take this time also to review your notes, take a look at what you're thinking of going forward. And I think if you have any questions right now of the city clerk, the city attorney, let's put that on the table too. Councilmember Springer.
So at what point is the best time to give an explanation of our thinking and how we came to our decision and what we considered? After the 15 minutes?
You're definitely... No. Go ahead. Sorry.
If I might, if you turn your ballots in after you put them on to the clerk, then it's just fine. But the ballots need to be filled out, turned into the clerk. And if you want to then comment, that's up to you and your peers. But you really should, in fairness, fill the names in, turn in the slips.
I wasn't going to name the ones that I've chosen, my 3. So the best time to explain is after I turn my ballot in. And before the ballots are read, or?
Once they're turned in, it really is up to the mayor. But they need to be turned in by all 4 of you before you comment.
Okay, got it.
Are you clear? And then you can comment all you want about your considerations and why these names move forward.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Is that agreeable with everyone?
I mean, I would like to explain it because
go.
We have tremendously qualified candidates, and
well, you can say that right now. I mean, but don't talk about any individuals.
So again, I think we were trying to make this as fair as possible and not have anybody say anything that's influencing each other. That's sort of, unless the council wants to do it otherwise. So the suggestion is you all think about it, fill out the ballots, have the city clerk announce them, and then you can give your explanations or whatever, if that's what the council wants to do, majority.
I think that, well, let me hear from the rest of you. You think that is the fairest way to approach this? Councilmember Frutos?
I'd rather remain silent because I don't want to say anything because we still have to discuss this on Monday. And you know, that's when the real interview process, and once I make my final selection, then I want to say why I chose a specific candidate. I'm not ready to do that. I still have a lot of thinking in my mind. I mean, I kind of have an idea which three I want to move forward, but the outcome could be totally different on Monday based on the question and answer period that we're going to have. So I don't want to.
I concur with Councilman Frutos.
Councilman
Okay,
Springer.
That's fine. I just wanted to provide an explanation of my thought process, but if it's not appropriate at this time, if it's better, because I don't want to be, I realize the importance of not biasing. So I can wait. But I do want that opportunity to explain my thought process in selecting my three, and later on Monday my selection, of course.
Okay. So if it's agreeable to the council, we'll take some time, stay in this room, don't go off, some smoke-filled room. We'll make our choices based on what we've seen in the applications, the information we received, other things that, you know, the presentation tonight. Fill the cards out, give them to the clerk. The clerk will announce the individuals who are going forward in the meeting this evening, and be prepared to come forward on Monday with information to provide about where we're at and why. Does that make sense?
Sure. Crystal.
Crystal? Clear. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we would, of course, thank you all, and especially for those of you who took the time to stay this evening and listen to the whole process, for being here tonight. All of the candidates who I'm sure were very nervous going through this, and maybe some not so, but I would be very nervous. It's a stressful thing. And I'd like to thank the speakers who indicated who they supported, as well as those who sent us communications indicating the same. If you will give us 15 minutes, you can leave the room. We're going to take some time now to go through our notes and consider what was said tonight and how outstanding it is, once again, that we had so many people step up. Thank you. We'll take a 15-minute timeout. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for waiting. Madam City Clerk, before you read the names, I want to give each council member an opportunity to address everybody tonight about what their impressions were of the applications and any other things that you'd like to say about all the candidates going forward. Who would like to begin? Councilmember Talamontes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, you know, very impressive. The applicants, a lot of good qualities of everybody. So I want to thank you for taking the time to do this. It's not easy. From experience, it's not an easy process to go through. So, but the fact that you did take the time to fill out the application, come before us and give your speech, and sit here and listen to everything that's been going on since then. I just want to thank you for doing it. And stay engaged. You know, we can only pick one person. So the 27 other people, please. It sounded like everybody loves Burbank. So stay engaged. There are a lot of opportunities throughout the community as far as not only with the city, with boards and commissions, but there's opportunities in nonprofits that you can start volunteering your time to. So all I can tell you is, if you don't get chosen, please stay on focus. Contact the city clerk's office for information in regards to openings in boards and commissions, an area that you might be interested in or have expertise in, and start your career there. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Springer.
In this process, I interviewed 17 people. And I have to say that I was impressed with every one of you, and one who's not here because he is a high school student graduating this year, and he didn't qualify, but he felt like he wanted to serve out Mayor Rogers' term, Will Rogers' city council term, and it was his way of honoring and being a trustee for his seat. He was accepted to Cornell University, but he wouldn't fit in this year, so he wanted to spend his time before going to Cornell serving in Will Rogers' place. And so it's very difficult to pick 3 people to move forward, and each of us is different, and each of us has a different experience in our community. We talk to different people, and I'm delighted, and I anticipate seeing whom they've selected to move forward, and I look forward to that discussion on Monday. And I want to encourage you all to serve on our boards and commissions. For me, it is so helpful because I attend to many of those boards and commissions, and I learn so much from them, and it helps me make the best decisions that I can. And when you're on a board or commission, you can also serve as a liaison to another one. So it expands your circle of experience and your contact in our community. Because I know that we'll see many of you, I hope, on future city councils. And I am so impressed with the leadership that's bubbling up behind us. And so I just encourage every one of you. Thank you.
Councilmember Frutos.
Thank you. I want to thank everybody for stepping up, putting in an application. Everybody that wanted to meet with me, I kept it to a phone conversation because I knew that my colleagues were also at City Hall, and I wanted to respect that time one-on-one conversation. And I try to stay away from interview-type questions for the people that I did speak with, but I talked about the job. I talked about the rewards. I talked about the frustration that comes with this great honorable position. But I do thank everybody for applying. And obviously, I had to pick 3, and you know, I feel bad because I wish I could pick everybody to move forward. But at the end of the day, a decision has to be made. and there has to be a process. And it's like one thing I've learned on council after 6 years. I will always try to do the best I can to the best of my ability from my heart. And I try to be compassionate. I try to be understanding. And even when they're very upset, I do listen. Might not agree with them 100%, but I listen to them and I kind of digest it when I'm by myself and I put their points where they're coming from to understand. But at the end of the day, it's really about service to people. And when you're in a leadership position, it is lonely at the top. And you do have to make sometimes unpopular decisions. But I do thank everybody for stepping up. Because when I got my binder, and I didn't even look at the name, I went right to the resumes, to the educational background, to the different companies that they've worked for. Holy moly, there is some serious talent out there that, you know what, the future council members, the future leaders, when your time comes, don't give up. Because it's easy to get angry with a decision that's made by a public official. It's so easy to go there and say, you know what, they must be smoking their socks. They weren't thinking, they're not listening. But that's a reality of life. And we see it, whether it's in Sacramento, we see it definitely in Washington, D.C. But as leaders, as myself and my colleagues, it is tough. It is not easy. But I do appreciate the phone calls. Some of you let me call you at 9:30, 10 in the evening, and we had great conversations on your passion about the city. Thank you for applying. Don't give up. Please, don't look at this as a setback, but look at it as an experience in your chapter of life that you participated. You took probably the most stressful 3 minutes to sit in front of the four of us and tell us who you are, why you're passionate about the city you live, but most important, how committed you are to really make a difference. And that's what I'm hearing today, and that's what I want to say thank you. Thank you to everyone in this room. Thank you for the supporters that are here, you know, giving us your thoughts. That's part of the democratic process in our city. Thank you, and our nation.
Bobby said it really well. and the part I'd like to amplify on is we know people are have a real concern over here, and then in other parts of the community they have a completely different reaction to that concern. So there's always one side and then another side, and we do have an obligation to be fair and listen to all those sides. I'd just like to say, and I think Bob Fruto said it all for my sentiments, the level of talent in this city is deep. It's not just wide, it's deep. And there are board and commission appointments coming up. There are school board elections coming up. So while all of you will not go forward, only a small group, we don't know how many, all of us together join you in saying how much we appreciate your taking the steps, to taking the initiative, and to come forward. And we'd love to see you do that again, because that separates you from those who may stand off in a corner and complain all the time, but don't have, as the mayor used to say, the stones or the guts to really step up and put yourself out there. And that is a tremendous credit to you. We are glad you're in our city. Thank you. Please proceed, Madam City Clerk.
Thank you. I'm going to call the names in order of council members, as I usually do with roll call. So I'm starting with Council Member Frutos, and the three choices I have: Barry Gusso, Timothy Murphy, and Paul Herman. Moving on to Council Member Talamantes. Oh, sorry. A little bit fast here. Let me know when you're ready. Ready? Okay. Councilmember Talamantes, Chris Rosati, Carolyn Jackson, and John Barry. Moving on to Vice Mayor Springer, Carolyn Jackson, Robert Brody, Paul Herman. Mayor Ghiberletti, Carolyn Jackson, Linda Mushmel, and Tim Murphy. Those are all the names. At this time, I will conduct the random draw order for our candidates to come back on Monday the 14th for their question answer session on the at 5 o'clock. First name, Robert Brody. John Barry. Chris Rosati. Carolyn Jackson. Linda Mushmel. Barry Gusso. Tim Murphy. And lastly, Paul Herman. And this concludes all the names in the record. So we have a total of 8 applicants that will be moving forward to Monday the 14th at 5 p.m. for the question answer period.
Madam City Clerk, now that we have the 8, the council has selected 8 applicants to continue to the next phase of the interview process. So it's a very tough decision for all of us. I'd like to ask the clerk if you would please explain to everyone what the process will be for Monday, May 14th.
Thank you. At Monday, the 14th at 5 p.m., we asked the applicants to check in earlier, perhaps at 4:45. So they will be asked to turn in their electronic devices. They will be sequestered. Staff will take them into a room, and we will be calling their names in the order I just cited, the random order that we just conducted. We will be calling them back. Council will have, for each candidate, they will have 15 minutes question answer period. Then I will collect ballots once again from council. Council will be handing me their top 1 choice. And from there, we will conduct a vote, right, similar to what we do with the boards and commissions. Once we conduct the vote, the council will then hopefully come up with an agreement to our next council member. And from there, we will ask that the person who is selected to come on the 22nd for the official oath of office.
Madam Mayor, if you don't mind.
Yes, Madam City Attorney.
Once the interviews are done, you'll hear from the public.
Correct.
Public comment will happen, and then we had the clerk would hand out the ballots to each of you. After you select, we were going to, or this is something council has to decide. Once you select, then council deliberations before your vote, if council so chooses, so that there'll be time for you to talk about why you picked the one that you picked. And that's up to council, but that's what you talked about at the last meeting on Tuesday night. So just something to think about.
Council, is that?
And you can decide that night, depending where you are. You may want to or go forward, but that was something else. But the big thing was the public will speak have a chance just like tonight, once the interviews are done.
I want to ask one further question of the clerk and the city attorney. We are going to ask the same questions of all candidates.
Correct, except if you have a follow-up, of course, that can be.
And that was my point. I would bet you that some council members, in fact, maybe 4 council members, will have some follow-up, and it may not be that it gets confined strictly to those 15 minutes. It's our goal, but give me some guidance here. Are we going to just do 15? We might have some follow-up.
You know, it's going to be up to the council, but what I would suggest is that you stay as close as you can to the 15, because otherwise you don't want to be spending 30 minutes with one candidate and 15 minutes with another.
I think that's extremely good guidance. We want to be fair to all the candidates, so I will ask us all to work together when we ask follow-up questions to be as clear and about what it is that the follow-up is. And then, of course, the candidates can either answer it quickly or you can give it more consideration, but you'll have to be mindful of the time that we're working under. So we're showing we want to show that flexibility because it's a real interview, but at the same time we want to be mindful of being fair, that each candidate gets the same amount of time to have their time with us.
And we will use the timer.
I know you will.
So we'll remind everyone they're 15 minutes.
Do we have any more business? Madam City Clerk, are we finished?
No, I believe we concluded the meeting.
Then I will now adjourn this meeting. We, the council, will adjourn to Monday, May 14th at 5 p.m. for the continuation of the council appointment interviews and final decision in the council chambers right here at 275 East Olive. Good night, everybody. Have a good night.